Guys, got a special video for y'all today. We are doing a face off of the Dark Crystal versus Labyrinth. Yeah, I know only one of these is anniversary edition, but I usually don't have physical copies of the movies I talked about. In fact, I have physical copies of both these films. It's great. They're beautiful. Anyway, both films are Jim Henson films, and they're the two most famous Jim Henson films due to their stories, the atmosphere of both films, and the kind of characters created for them. Dark Crystal came out in 1982, Labyrinth came out in 1986, and yeah, we've got 5 rounds to go through. Let's go through them. Round 1 Story. The story of the Dark Crystal is that on a planet called. Okay, it doesn't say the planet on the back, but I know it says it somewhere. Anyway, on a not Earth planet, we have a race of two species that are fighting to for control. You got the good ones, the Mystics, and you got the bad ones, the Skeksis. And according to a prophecy, a Gelfling named Jen is apparently prophesied to bring to make the Dark Crystal the most powerful magical object in this world whole again by putting the shard back into the Dark Crystal, and to free the planet from the rule of the evil Skeksis. The story of Labyrinth is that Sarah on Earth, this is Earth now, Sarah accidentally gives her baby brother to the Goblin King, Jareth, played by David Bowie, and now she has to go through the labyrinth and rescue her brother. So with both stories, they're fairly simple in their themes and messages. Dark Crystal is very obviously a classic tale of good versus evil. The story of Labyrinth is probably one about respecting and valuing family. But they're both very imaginative in terms of execution. Although I will admit there is a little bit more complexity to Labyrinth as opposed to the Dark Crystal. So round 1 goes to Labyrinth. Now let's move on to round 2, the main character. Main character we have in the Dark Crystal, we have Jen, a Gelfling. And in the world of the Dark Crystal, everything is a puppet. There are no actual people in this film, aside the ones that are controlling the puppets, but an entirely puppet main character in this film. It is very unique, and he is entertaining to watch. Although admittedly not as entertaining as Jennifer Connelly as Sarah. And she can be a little annoying at first, but then as you watch the movie more on, you get more used to her and you really sympathize and connect with her. Now, of course, while the fact that Jen from the Dark Crystal is 100% a puppet character, that does make him a little unique in terms of behind the scenes. But in terms of what's on the screen, it is a little bit harder for him to emote, to actually portray emotion for people to connect with him. Since Jennifer Connelly is, of course, an actual human person, it is easier to do that, and she does have a nice range of emotion shown in this film. So this round again goes to Labyrinth. Now let's move on to round 3, supporting characters. Now there are some memorable supporting characters in Labyrinth. I hesitate to say that a little bit because due to my bad memory, I can't remember half of their names. But the two that do come to mind are Hoggle, the goblin that helps Sarah through her journey in the labyrinth and forms a particular friendship with her. And you've got the, I guess, more antagonist role of Jareth, the Goblin King, played by David Bowie. Now, of course, the Labyrinth is mostly known due to David Bowie's performance. And that's both a good thing for this movie, but also kind of a bad thing, because he does overshadow the performances of the other characters, including Jennifer Connelly as the main character. With the Dark Crystal, you have Kira, another Gelfling that helps Jen on his journey. You've got several of the mystics that help play a role in one way or another. You've got the Skeksis, who are more antagonists, but we always come back to them at some point in the film every now and then. So, supporting characters in Dark Crystal remain more of supporting characters, which is fundamentally what they're supposed to do, help the main character in this journey. And while Labyrinth has arguably more memorable supporting characters, they often get overshadowed or they get too big and overshadow the characters that's supposed to get most of the focus. So it's a little bit uneven with Labyrinth. So, due to that, due to consistency, I'm giving this round to the Dark Crystal. Now let's move on to round 4, special effects. So with both these films, they're very mainly focused on actual practical effects. In terms of Labyrinth, we have many puppet creatures, a lot of stage work, a lot of beautiful sets that are made, and it is a very beautiful and gorgeous looking film. With Dark Crystal, everything is special effects. There are, again, no humans on screen in this film. It's all special effects, well, practical effects. And there's just a certain uniqueness to that, especially in this day and age of a whole bunch of CG being used in a lot of movies, and a large chunk of that being bad CG at that, too. To see a film have so much practical effects and all of it looks so real and grounded is very impressive. Of course, the same can be said with Labyrinth, because while there are again human characters on screen, there's still a lot of puppeteering here, a lot of stuff that went into the actual making of like the sets, backgrounds, the puppet characters. So a lot that can be said for Labyrinth too. But with Dark Crystal, again, everything is practical effects. And it's due to that more completion, and it gives more of a uniqueness that separates it from the other film Labyrinth. So with this round, we're giving this to Dark Crystal. Now let's move on to the 5th and final round, which is going to be the most difficult one, atmosphere. Both these films have very unique, imaginative, and beautiful atmospheres to get yourself sucked into. With Dark Crystal, you do feel like you're on an entirely different planet. You got all these beautiful scenes, and you got these great characters to watch, both good and bad. With Labyrinth, it is technically on Earth, but most of it takes place in the Goblin world. And the interaction between the human character and like all the other goblins and puppets in this world do create a really more, I guess, slightly more traditional fantasy story, I guess, in a way. More traditional fantasy environment where humans interact with more mystical creatures. But it's done in a very Jim Henson way that gives it its own unique standing in the genre of fantasy films. But again, with Dark Crystal, since it's completely practical, it does give, again, more of its own unique standing in the fantasy genre. Now, with Dark Crystal, when it first came out, a lot of people thought it was maybe a little too dark for more of the younger audiences who grew up with Jim Henson's more family-friendly stuff. With Labyrinth, it's kind of goes in that same territory, but does keep it a little bit lighter to make it more easily accessible for a lot of people. But again, there are so many similarities between these two films. I honestly don't know what to do here. Don't even know which one to give it to. A lot of the times, Labyrinth kind of overshadows The Dark Crystal because, well, it has David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly attached to it. And at the time, David Bowie was for certain a very big name and continues to be a big name long after his death. I say long after, even though he's only been dead for a couple of years at this point, but you get what I mean. Jennifer Connelly, I don't know how big of a name she was back when this film was released, but she has certainly become a famous name now. And so, but Dark Crystal, there's a lot to admire, and there is so much of its own unique, feel, its own character, its own environments. It's just, hold on a second. Sorry about that. It's just so. It deserves to be explored further. It deserves to be examined more closely. So, with that being said, I love Labyrinth, I really do, but I'm going to have to give this round to the Dark Crystal. So, 3-2. Of the two, Dark Crystal wins. But I still love Labyrinth. These films are both amazing. And if you're really tired all like the CG being used in a lot of movies today, check out either or better yet, both of these films. They are amazing to watch. So that's all I really have for right now. Like, comment, subscribe, share. See you guys next time.